If it comes down to a production basis, then you would favour the Western countries. However, the munitions which they're now producing are so complicated and so expensive, so deadly as well. But I'm getting off topic. I'm getting off the speech that he made. He says it's rock solid, Article 5, rock solid. Article 5, for people that's not aware, is this, if there's an attack against one of the members, then it's viewed as an attack on all of the NATO members. I'm not too sure how this would work in practice. Just say for argument's sake that Poland got attacked. By whom? I'm not saying. Would Greece send troops? Would Portugal send troops? I'm not too sure. And he then said something which I think he was trying to rubber stamp it or make it sound like official or something. Article 5, it's rock solid. An attack on one is an attack on all. It's a sacred oath. And I just thought that was misplaced. He might have thought that it endorsed it and ramped it up. It's not just an oath, it's a sacred oath. Ooh. Health, peace, security, democracy. He says there's going to be a few dark nights, basically meaning some bad times in the future. He says, but now is an inflection point. And the next 5 years are going to shape the future and what to come. Well, virtually any speech, if you go back at the United States presidential debates or the inaugurations or the UK prime ministers, they virtually always roll this thing out. It's an inflection point. It's a change. It's the changing of the cards. It's just so important in stuff like that. Is it an important point? Yeah. Will it dictate the next 5 years? Possibly, depending on what's going on. Will it fundamentally change things way down the line? I don't believe so. I think when you put these things into context of 20 or 30 or 40 years, some of these things which look huge at the time become small here. He said something else which I think he could have built up, which was, he said, mistakes are eternal. I think he was trying to link that with Putin invasion, Ukraine. Mistakes are eternal. You've got to live with your mistakes. He says, but hope beats fear. There's no limitations. Anything, the West can do, it's possible. There's nothing sweeter than freedom, Freedom. If you don't know what to say, just say freedom. Freedom. If you don't know what to say democracy. Democracy. So there's nothing sweeter than freedom. 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 There's no higher goal. Freedom. There's no greater aspiration. Freedom. Stand with us and we will stand with you. Freedom. That was like he's sort of building up to a crescendo thing. I think it could have been reworked slightly. I think he was getting slightly tired by that point, just in my opinion. I think if you had to space that out, had less freedoms in the way through, but then again, It's theatre. It's like a big advert. It's like Madison Avenue, Mad Men production. At the end, when he finished the freedom, which I thought was pretty good. Freedom, no sweeter, no higher ground, no great aspiration. I think he just had too many freedoms in there. But then again, possibly you kind of get too many freedoms. Freedom, stand with us and we will stand with you. I thought that was a pretty strong line. If it had been given room to breathe, just my opinion. It just looked too schmaltzy at the end. There was groups of young kids ushered down the sort of stage where he was at, with little flags. It looked too schmaltzy. It looked too Michael Jacksonish to me. President Biden posed with a couple of the kids, and then he did a sharp exit, which I think was the best thing to do. I think it would have been better if President Biden had have went off the stage and stuff like that, and then possibly you had the kids carrying, or I don't know. It just looked too sugary sweet and stuff like that. It's maybe designed for an American audience. I think American tastes perhaps tend to be slightly different. Oh, look at them kids with the flags and stuff like that. He's no campaigner, President Biden. I think he did just a little bit with the kids, then I'm off, which I think was the right thing for him to do and stuff like that. I'm not too sure if it was the buzz of the big occasion, but certainly he came across different at this event. Like I say, he soon moved away from the kids, which I think was the right thing to do. It was getting, some people might think schmaltzy, sugary, some people might think it creepy. It's a terrible society that you live in now, whereby people think that, but people do. And if they think it, you've got to be aware of it. Yeah, the bit at the end, when the kids came on with the little flags, I thought it was a bit like that Coca-Cola commercial. I want to teach the world to sing. I want to teach the world to join NATO in perfect harmony. It just seemed too Mad Men to me, too Mad Men. Was Don Draper involved in this? It just, for some audiences, that would have hit the spot. But for other audiences, I'm not too sure. Understand, little kids' protection. Yes, the president, blah, blah, blah. No. Like I say, if you had finished on the blah, 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 freedom or whatever and stuff like that, and he did his walk off. Perhaps at the edge, perhaps some of the other leaders, President of Poland or the other ones, could have stood at the back of the stage, possibly with kids beside them, Biden walk off, shake their hands, then out. I thought that would have looked better. I just thought it was too schmaltzy. And the biggest thing, which I mentioned at the start, they failed to mention the hostilities in the Donbass prior to 22. I think that's a discredit to his speech, because I think if you accept that there has been hostilities, you can then put the difference in the sort of border dispute. Few shells here, few shells there, fairly localized. Lots of people got killed in it, Major. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not endorsing what the Russians are doing. I'm not endorsing the fight on any side. Overall, yeah, I think he did reasonably well. I don't think, apart from the few things that I'm chiding about, given space, having a bit of a zinger, like a 1 or a 2-liner, a mini clip that can be shown, like the Reagan clip, like the JFK clip, ask not what your country and all this came. There wasn't anything in there. The inflection point, the next 5 years, I think possibly might be right. Depending on which way it goes. If it goes NATO's way, in this is a short war, and Ukraine gets built up, how you decide on the peace with Russia. But basically, it seemed, you've got to like bash Russia into a pulp when you hear other people speaking about it. But maybe he's right. Maybe he's right on the inflection point of the next 5 years. Maybe he should have started with that and came back to it a couple of times. Maybe he's trying to show that this is critical. Maybe he's trying to give it more importance. I think that the freedom and democracy is tired. A lot of people in Western countries, it just goes over their heads. They haven't lived in sort of regimes, dictatorial places where maybe it appeals more to people in the Balkans, Poland, that used to live under the USSR rule. Overall, yeah. If I was rating it, I'd rate it a high B on a scale of A, B, C, D, E. I wouldn't rate it A or A star. There was no zingers. There was nothing. I thought he was competent. There were some good points in it, but like I say, I'm not a speechwriter. I'm just giving my view of it. But yeah, I am a B plus, and stuff like that, which I was quite surprised by. But then again, I'm sure they've spent a heap of time on this. They've worked this and reworked it and stuff like that. It flowed far better than what Putin's speech did. I thought Putin's speech was disjointed. Putin talked about different things. He talked about the Donbass and previous things. But anyway, yeah. Biden's got a passing grade off me. B plus. Well done. Thank you.